The future is green. And yes, green does mean sustainable, but we're talking about the green, known as cannabis, hemp, ganja, weed, and a plethora of other names if you want to keep it small. But the world of cannabis is much bigger than smoke and mirrors. I'm Kendall, the farm plug.
I'm Antoine Mordican.
And I'm Dr. Snap.
And this is Growing the Green.
Welcome everybody. This is Antoine Mordican, your Alabama State Director for Minorities for Medical Marijuana, and this here is your news. We got a few good things to be able to connect and talk about. We got some local news as well as some national news. I want to give a big shout out to the state of Ohio becoming the, 26th state now?
26.
The 26th state to legalize recreational cannabis in their state, in the United States in the whole. So big clap and kudos to y'all, because I know that was not a easy task, but y'all saw it through and got it done. As well, what we got in news here in Alabama, we're still moving forward with the presentations to be allowing companies to be able to present in front of the commission to be able to be to pretty much argue why they should be awarded a license. There's been a lot of things that have came out in the last couple of days here. They sent out the notice of deficiencies to applicants. They also sent out the criteria, or the qualifications of the evaluators that actually evaluated the applicants, the applications, and pretty much scored the applications. And now they have now produced the agenda for the actual time slots. Yeah, who will actually be presenting. So if you're here in Alabama, Montgomery, Alabama to be exact, come on out here November 27th at 10 o'clock in the morning. Meet us at the Alabama State House to be able to listen to some of these companies present their case and present their company on why they should be awarded a license. But with that being said, that's all we got for the news this week.
And of course, today is our last episode for this, the third season. So we've been getting better every season. We've been elevating in our production and our value and the way that we run the show, bringing on new people for y'all to get to meet and get to know. And so I guess I just want to start out with, what was the most memorable episode for you all? Like, what was your favorite episode?
I'll say my favorite episode is when we got to go out to A&M, man, and see all the great stuff that they was doing, to see the fields of hemp that they're being growing, the different research that they're doing in the hemp space of it, as well as other crops as well, and just being more in tune and being a little bit more intimate with the plant and being able to be out there live with the plants and all the amazing information Dr. Sieber gave us. I say that was probably the best episode that I thoroughly enjoyed.
Okay.
So I would say, I think that episode, what was the episode we talked about, the fiber and the tech type stuff, you know what I'm saying? Like the different aspects of some of the non-conventional stuff that people are doing in cannabis space.
The processing, vertical integration.
That one, that was my first, that was my favorite one.
Episode 4.
Yep. So that gave a different perspective of the cannabis plant that most people are not aware of. That not only the medical aspect, you have the industrial. So adding that whole beneficial aspect of the cannabis plant, I think that was the great thing to introduce to the people.
So I want to do like a quick recap. I'm not gonna lie, it's amazing that y'all can remember all the things we talked about this year. So I know the first episode we did the scientific recap where we talked about the anatomy and like the shape of the plant. So what were key takeaways from that episode?
Terpenes, the different way to be able to grow. I think we talked about the difference between hydroponic and aeroponics, aquaponics, traditional. The
different uses of the plant.
The fiber.
Yep, the fiber.
The bud. Right.
There's a very elementary version of me that appreciates those one-on-one sessions to be able to just like, okay, well, let's really just actually sit back, break this plant down, and look at all of the stuff that we can do. That's like the climax for me. It's one of my favorite parts. Then the second episode, we talked about, it was like our flash to the past, right? How did we get here? We talked about policy and the history of Black farmers. So what were some takeaways from that episode? And of course, we're telling you the order of the episodes. So if you want to go back and check them out on any of our websites, definitely CISC1881.org. Definitely tune in or follow us on YouTube and be sure to subscribe so you see when all of these new videos get uploaded. But you can definitely go back to any of these videos and see more in depth what we talked about. Back to our regular scheduled programming.
But I enjoyed the conversation of just the history on how we kind of got to where we are today, when it comes, especially when it comes down to related to cannabis and hemp, that we was using it so early on, then it ended up getting criminalized, and what's his name, Harry Anslinger came in and did his things, and then the Bureau of Narcotics or whatever they want to call themselves, and then we get into the civil rights movement, then we get into the 80s where the war on drugs and everything kicked off, just to be able to follow that train on how we got to where we are today, and how we got to still combat a lot of that stuff that was done.
You're right, because the Black Farmer episode was actually the episode after that. This was the one where we talked about like how did the scheduling of drugs even come about? We talked about like literally the history of the DEA, how did they get founded? Like we really touched on that alphabet soup aspect of like the government and the role that the government has played in really kind of shaping the relationship that a lot of people may or may not have with the plant today. And then the next one was about Black farmers, which I mean I absolutely love, right? Because we talked about, I think this episode, something that stood out to me from this episode was, I think we talked about the war and how if you owned land and you agreed to grow hemp, you didn't have to be drafted, which was crazy to me. And automatically you had to have at least 200 acres or something.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Think about how many people who were excluded because they did not have those resources. Right. You know what I'm saying? So that's the unfair.
What they call it, the privilege tax? That what we call it?
That's what it is.
Yeah, might as well. That was episode 3. The episode 4 was you saying your favorite episode, where we looked at processing, the different grow mediums. Okay, you talked about why it was your favorite, but what were some of the key takeaways that people should have gotten?
I like the fact that we was able to touch on the multiple uses of the plant in itself, especially I think we talked about remediation, using it for hempcrete, using it for fiber textiles, using it for animal feed. And that was my biggest takeaway from that. We was able to touch on a lot of the more intimate and pretty much a lot of the stuff that people don't know that cannabis can be used for. We was able to talk about that a lot in that episode.
And then we talk about you said the mediums, the different media. So you can do the growth media, you can do conventional soil, you can do hydroponics or like an expanded clay, fake soil type, or soil substitution. Just different ways that you can actually grow things or grow the cannabis.
I think I really like that episode too, because it makes me think about, where you're located, the urban site, and like all of the different, that's exactly what that site is for, is to show all of the different ways that you can grow. And I think it's important for people to always remember that cannabis is just another plant, right? You have to grow it. So understanding how it grows, the various ways that it can grow, is like 101 really, if you're going to engage this plant. Or I won't say to be in the industry, because as we established in multiple arenas, that there are a lot of different things that you can do to be in the cannabis industry that are not necessarily plant touching, which we definitely talked about in episode 305, where we talked about the future of farming, the industry, tech, and innovation. So what else did we talk about in that episode? We talked about the industry and like the future.
Yeah, the implementations of technology to be able to kind of create a more efficient, process of when it comes down to farming and cultivating and growing and things like that. And also making sure we sticking to the fundamentals of farming and agriculture, because you can't step away from the fundamentals, but using how we can use technology to pretty much enhance and streamline the process.
And we talked about the potential challenges too, right? Because technology and innovation, it sounds really good and really dreamy, but when you factor in the opportunity costs, the actual who's paying for this, where do these resources actually come from, it can get a little bit more murky. And
then when you think about the failures of your technology, that might be the failure of your farm if that technology may fail. These things might be indicators to tell you things that you might have different sensors, different modulators, different things that can tell you stuff you know, before it happens and things like that. But what if all that stuff stops working?
Right.
It's miscalibrated.
Right. Miscalibrated. They never got calibrated. So what do you do at that point? You know, that was some of the things. You know, always know beyond the technology. If you know how to do the concept, once you introduce to the technology, that's just an added value type thing.
And then in 306, we talked about economics and social equity. And I think this was also a really good episode because
this is probably one of my favorite ones too.
Yeah,
I got to speak to the economics and the true social equity of a lot of these things. And I think that was right off the cuff of me speaking out in Atlanta, speaking about, you know, and what my opinion is of true equity, of, you know, making sure we have true stake in these companies, making sure that we have true ownership, that we are able to allocate funds and dollars to be to support certain causes, to be able to benefit our community, as well as educational purposes, and ultimately just getting folks back in to agriculture and just exposing them to it more. That's what I see as true equity. So that was one of my biggest things. Economics don't nothing move unless the dollar move.
That's it.
Yeah, I don't know. I still feel some type of way. I remember in one of our previous CannaCons, we had someone, shout out Anton Seals in Chicago, but he was making comments about social equity and how he felt like if we were actually moving in an equitable space, then we wouldn't need social equity. Like, it's kind of like a made up thing in a certain capacity, and it's almost interesting too, because when we create certain parameters, I feel like sometimes they can be used against us, right? Because of the nature of this system, right? And it's taking me back to think about like, everyone has seen the buy weed from women shirt, right? But then I'm always thinking about at the MJ Biz conference when them dudes came out with the buy weed from rich white men. And it's like, here we are, you leveraging our avenues to be able to, you know, market ourselves. And then on the flip side, it could just be taken and used right against us in some capacity. So as we continue this conversation and also in reflection, I guess what are some of your thoughts or key things that you want people to think about when it comes to social equity, economics, and the cannabis industry moving forward?
Know who you're supporting. Be more involved. Be strategic about how you decide to spend your dollar. Because you can get somebody front man. You may get the facade. You may get the smoke and mirrors and everything like that. You may get all the bells and whistles. But if you don't really understand what you are really supporting, it may not serve your cause. It may not benefit what you really want for the benefit, unless you just out here just trying to just whatever it is you're trying to do. I think it's important that folks be more strategic about how they choose to spend their dollars, so we won't have to talk about social equity. We can just move in a more equitable manner.
Okay. What about you?
What he said. I mean, that was great.
Yeah, no, I can appreciate that because it's essentially that's where we at on Earth right now. There's so much going on, and like we can tweet and we can repost and share information like wildfire, but how do you actually embody and like move in the stuff that you're tweeting and reposting and sharing on your story, right? Like, how does that actually become real for you? And I think especially when it comes to the cannabis industry, that's important, right? Because a lot of people may not agree or may not think that it should be legalized, and they may still see it as a drug. But the fact that 26 states, that's more than half of the United States at this point.
Somebody don't see it as a
26,
drug.
and I think it's like 37 now. That's medical. Like, that's insane. Why we still having this discussion? Why they ain't move the paper already? Push the pen.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, whether you're actually ingesting or engaging the plant or not, it's important to actually understand the plant because of how much, especially if you're black, right, or a person of color. Because our communities have we have so much more at stake when it comes to this plant. So we can't, to me, it's hard to have this conversation without talking about the war on drugs and its impact on our community, or climate change and its impact on our community, and not bring that into the conversation of cannabis because of how much it can actually do. So, you know, someone who could be against the plant, if you're just against the plant in totality, you may be inadvertently or or an accident, you
missing
might
out
be
on the food, fiber, and shelter.
missing out on all
missing
the
out on
benefits.
things that you didn't even know that this cannabis plant could produce. You know, so like the fiber, like the herd, like the food, fiber, and shelter. You know what I'm saying? Just those three elements are socially, you know what I'm saying, should be incorporated in every communal society.
And that goes right into our next episode with HBCUs, making sure HBCUs in the cannabis industry, making sure that we creating, solid avenues to be able to educate the masses. Most importantly, our community, or at least our close-knit folks. Like before I got into the cannabis space, it was a lot of folks I'll speak specifically to the job I was doing at the time and the company that I was working for. It was a lot of folks that was ignorant about cannabis in itself, and when they learned that I was growing hemp, they didn't know the difference between hemp and cannabis or medical THC. They didn't know the difference. So when they saw that I was off in, they were like, oh, well, Twan out here growing weed. Like, nah, it's bigger than that, and it's more than that. And that ignorance can be able to overshadow, the good things that you're trying to do. So when you run into those ignorant people, education is critical to bring them up to speed and let them know that this is not a bad plant. It can be used for X, Y, Z. We got the farm bill, so what I'm doing is not illegal. But you got some folks that just gun-held on the law when they choose on how they want to be able to interpret and implement that. But a lot of folks won't touch or even deal with the plant until it is federally legal or legal in their states to be able to do anything with it. So when it comes down to that, that naiveness, or those that's been fed the stigma, which is most of our elders, that's still thinking that way. We have to do our due diligence to be able to educate them, to bring them abreast to the current times. As I tell folks, our elders are the hardest ones to be able to educate on anything because they old, their heads are hard. Rock, steel, solid. It's hard to penetrate their mind and to be able to invite them to new ideas because this is all they knew. But when we get more attached to the youth and able to educate them at least a collegiate level, they minds are a little softer. They are more sponges. They'll absorb the information that they're being told, and they'll be able to analyze and critically think and to be able to figure out new innovative ways to be able to get this thing out. So I think it's definitely important that we continue to do the education. I've been getting our HBCUs involved. We got research dollars that's going to be a part of it. We got too many levels of research that can be done to the genetics of the plant, to the different cultivars depending on the climate, to the uses of the textiles, to even the processing of the plant, to be able to figure out more innovative ways that we can be able to be more efficient in the space and industry as well, getting folks back to farming.
Good, y'all know what I'm gonna say. Be like Southern. Right.
Yep.
Be in the game. Have some skin. Have so much skin in the game that you're dealing with it on all aspects, from the law aspect, from the culinary to the product distribution, everything. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love Southern's aspect of how their university is approaching the cannabis plant. They're not leaving any stone unturned. So follow Southern. I would advise any school looking to go into the cannabis industry, check out what Southern is doing.
Please.
See what they're doing. I'm not saying copy it, but, mimic it to the best of your ability to your program. You know what I'm saying? Make it fit for your program.
Or reach out to Southern.
Partnerships.
Yes, call them.
Partnerships, for sure.
Because I think when I think about HBCUs in the cannabis space, that's one of the things that I would like to see more of. Like, how could it look if there was a concerted effort of 1890s across the country that roll out with an initiative to actually be in this space and have a fortified energy within this industry, because again of all of that, everything that it represents for us as a people. So we're actually in the process of putting together these Carver cannabis circles, which would basically be space for researchers and academics and experts of all different walks, but primarily preferably doing research of some kind. But essentially we have young black professionals that are getting their their professional degrees, right? That's what they call their graduate degrees in this industry. And the discrimination and the microaggressions that they've been experiencing have literally led them to want to create this club. And they saw so much of the microaggressions that they were receiving be channeled through entities like Dr. Carver, right, who technically never got his doctorate, right, but if you look at all the things he invented, all of the like literal gems that he left behind for humanity, this man saved agriculture for the South, thereby saving agriculture for the United States. Like, he's a doctor.
And his contributions past agriculture.
Right.
Because, you know, some of his agricultural principles were implemented in everyday
Assembly
society
lines.
to make life better.
Yeah.
You know, not so much dealing specifically with agriculture.
Right.
He helped change cultures
Yeah.
by the things that he provided.
100%. So we gotta elevate him and amplify his work. So shameless plug. That's something for people to look out for. That will be rolling out, but it's definitely important again for us to be in these spaces because of what it means for our community. So that's something that I would like to see.
I would love to see, you know, our Growing the Green podcast be filmed at a Southern university partnership,
Okay.
collaboration event. So if anybody's out there in Southern, let's reach out, you know what I'm saying, try to make that happen and get that, you know what I'm saying, done to see everything that they're doing out there.
Well,
So,
where can people find you at if they want to reach out? How do they connect with you?
you can find me at the urban site, 595 Grady Street on most days. If not, you can find me on Instagram as _nation_movement at Instagram. Right? Yeah, that's where you can find me mostly.
Okay. And what you were about to say, though?
Well, I'm just excited about the conversation, you know, especially with getting more HBCUs involved. I actually can make a phone call. I got some contacts out there in Louisiana over at Southern. We can try to orchestrate that and get that going. And you know, I'm just excited, you know, as we push forward. You know, I want to be able to see more black faces in green spaces. However you interpret that, but we need more black faces in green spaces. If it's in, you know, cannabis. If it's in just traditional agriculture, if it's in the research of agriculture or the innovation of agriculture, we need more black faces in those spaces.
And that's making me think of, I got to shout out Deron Chavis, who is in Richmond, Virginia, and he's got an awesome like show that he's been recording and is rolling out with called Black Space Matters, where he's going around interviewing different farmers and comrades and people in the field that are doing this food justice work. And I think it's beautiful because he also hosts like a happily natural festival similar to what we experienced at the Buds conference in Philly. But like we talk about culture, you know what I'm saying? To see so many black farmers that are not just, they're on the same wave. They understand the heaviness of the work that they're doing, but can also turn up. I'm talking about till 4 o'clock in the morning.
Be relatable.
Yeah, that's what
all of those things. Actually be a human being.
Yeah.
And have a heart. But still have a heart to do things right. Do things the right way.
Yeah.
Growing food for people, you know what I'm saying? Like providing a true service.
Because essentially, like, we're growing specialty crops. You know what I'm saying? And I think right now, cannabis is considered a specialty crop, right? Even though it has the capacity to be a commodity crop. And this is something that we touch on all the time. And I'm a firm believer in what Dashida Dawson said. Like, if we don't legalize the right way, then we don't need to legalize at all, right? And so if we turn this into a commodity crop, then we need to be sure that the people whose bodies and labor has been commoditized through the prison system, incarceration, and so many other things. We need to make sure that they're getting whatever restitution is owed to them. And I would love to see again, like how 1890s and universities like Southern can facilitate these spaces through extension and through outreach and stuff like that. Just random thoughts that I'm having. But as we kind of move forward, because we're in the last section of this episode, guys, and we're gonna have a little break, but before we come back next year with some more Growing the Green, there are a lot of things that are gonna be going down. So what are some things that people should be aware of, or what are some ways or calls to action for people to get involved over these next couple of months with whether it be just cannabis or agriculture in general? Like, how can people get more into the Growing the Green conversation?
I would say the biggest thing is simply connect and follow me if possible. Connect with me on LinkedIn at Antoine Mordican, or visit my website at Native Black farm.com, subscribe to my mailing list, and ultimately just getting involved in the process. You know, we're running into election year, 2024. Stop voting for people that does not support your cause. If they not pro-cannabis and you are pro-cannabis, don't vote for them. And also, as well as we move forward, you know, make sure we get out here and learn more about these different people. You know, attend their campaigns or at least listen to their speeches on how things are going on. Like, we are in a very pivotal time. I was probably say we're probably in the most historic time in American history. And a lot of folks look at me like, "Man, how you can say that?" Like, nah, for real. We don't recognize the history when we're going through it. But when all this era is told back in black and white in the history books, it's gonna be something major. It's gonna be something major. So I encourage everybody to just play your part.
Well, you know,
and
on
I like
Twitter,
to commend you for being one of those foot soldiers in that process.
Appreciate it.
You've been putting in that work for a while, and it shows. You know what I'm saying? I give you that credit. Give people their flowers when flowers is due. Right?
Shame while they can smell them. I actually just saw something that was trending on Twitter talking about Project 2025. That is basically a plan for super ultra right conservative folks to really throw their bid in to go for office on all levels all across the country. So people are basically talking about that 2025 as an election year is going to be essentially like a takeover of the government, and it's going to be defining
those local elections.
Yeah, it's going to be a defining time for this country about how the next, especially because, you know, and again, my whole thing is climate. I love that. That's what I'm into. It's undeniable, and it's been undeniable since before Hurricane Katrina, right? And when we look back at these things, we're the ones standing on our roofs waiting to get saved, right? And so when we see this, there's conversations about 2030 and 2050, so that global warming keeping the Earth's climate from rising 2 degrees. And when we got these type of people that are talking about getting in office, there's a lot at stake. Not only for, you know, the prison industrial complex and the cannabis industry, but for the livelihood of everybody. As the wealth gap grows, disparity gaps are growing. The gap between haves and have-nots is not getting smaller. And I think that this plant has something to do with reducing or like eliminating that gap in some way. But it takes more people to get involved on all of these different aspects for that to come to light. Right.
So people should go out in their communities, right? Go to events such as the event that we're having at the urban site on December 16th called Green and Grateful. It's not dealing with cannabis, but it's going to be a peacock track holiday feast and wellness event, right? It's going to be from 12 to 4 p.m. on Saturday, December 16th at the TUAIC, that's the Urban Center, 595 Grady Street. Come on out. If you want to partner, please contact us. Contact me at Higgins, that's HHIGGINS at TUSKEGEE.edu, right? So
Higgins at Tuskegee.edu.
So contact me for any type of, if you're trying to give away anything, if you want a partnership with this giveaway, please, let's help the community, let's give back, let's set some up. So participate with your local communities, your local community events. Support your local growers. Those are some of the action items that I propose the people to go out and do during this time that we will be away. So don't forget about us. Don't stop doing the work, because we not gonna stop doing the work. Right. So y'all do the work just like we gonna do the work, and we all gonna come together and be accountable for what we do. You know, so we gotta be doing something to hold ourselves accountable.
Shane. So I also got to give a shout out to the beautiful Ossie and Daphne at the Collab Collective. They always have beautiful things going on out there where they're actively carving out space for community. We also got to shout out our community partners like Vincent Hall, Kevin King, Kalonji Gilchrist with 21 Dreams Arts and Culture. And of course, we love King's Canvas. If you can show up to their gala on December 1st, then we will see you there, because we are also...
Is it December 1st or 2nd?
I don't know, but check out King's Canvas Instagram so you can know when it is, because we planning.
They got a gala coming up. You know what I'm saying?
We're planning.
We gonna support for sure.
So, and I know also it's as it pertains directly to the cannabis industry, that the first of multiple hearings, right, are going to be happening on November 27th at 10 a.m. Yeah, so what's going on there? Why should people be present?
Well, a lot of folks should be present because it will be a lot of respected companies that will be presenting their company. Myself will be one of the presenters. I'll actually be the first presenter of any of the presentations. So I would like to be able to fill that room up with much love and support as possible. 10 o'clock sharp. My presentation is set to start at 10:10, so please get there about 30 minutes before so we can all congregate together, we can have a discussion, we can have love, give some hugs, kiss some babies and everything like that, and also just uplift folks. But the most important thing, you just got to be there to be able to hear it so you can understand and recognize the people that's trying to represent and sell you medical cannabis in Alabama.
Know your grower.
Know your grower, y'all.
Know your farmer.
Also, know your farmer, know your food, because no one can grow the green alone. It takes a community that's willing to learn and sow seeds of growth. And those are the seeds that we plan to keep sowing here. So let's keep growing, reaping, learning, and sowing. And we will see you all next year on Growing.
Peace and love. Until next time.